VTR 23709, English programme, writing lyrics, take 1.
Victoria Wood Entertainment. There's not too many jobs available, unqualified as I am. I've got a brownies badge for skipping and a guides for making jam. CSE heavy petting, O-level hanging around, and I would have got a bronze life-saving medal if the person I was saving hadn't drowned. I've been working in an office and I can't face that again, and I've always fancied being a comedian. I could be a bus conductress, ring that little bell, have a little number on a dandruffy lapel. Imagine all the jokers, it might be a mistake. All that, how much is it to Oldham? That's a place in the north, might get too much to take. Now I have decided, you just tell me when I can start to be a comedian.
That was taken from Victoria Wood's own personal cassette recording of a 1981 schools programme called The English Language, and a song that explains pretty much why she became not just a comedienne, but a singer, sketch and sitcom writer, and quite probably the all-time winner of Britain's Best Person Ever. Hello, my name's Rebecca Front, and over the next 2.5 hours, we'll be listening to lots and lots of Victoria Wood's work, some of it never heard before, including extracts from her own personal diaries, notes and rehearsal tapes. It'll be hopelessly short of meaningful analysis, entirely inadequate as biography, and we'll have loads and loads of stuff that will make you laugh like a cat. Oh, and if anyone wants to know why I got into songwriting and then comedy and then acting, it really can be summed up in 2 words: Victoria Wood. She was ridiculously inspirational, cutting across class and gender, effortlessly launching rhyming couplets with one hand while creating hilarious characters with the other, all the time delivering uproarious, earthy, witty, fresh stand-up with the third act. I've run out of hands for that metaphor, but you know what I'm getting at. One thing it won't be is a documentary. Here's Victoria on documentaries.
Now, before I get properly stuck in, I must just tell you I'm under a bit of a strain tonight. I've got a film crew with me. They're making a fly-on-the-wall documentary. Bit of a panic on. The fly's just died. It fell off the wall. They said, well, just film you as you are, you know, warts and all. Well, I don't have any warts. I had to go out and buy some and stick them on. I've forgotten to put them on. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Terrible strain having a film crew, though, with you wherever you go. You really have to watch what you say. I haven't said bollocks since Tuesday. It'll be in the paper on Monday. Woman says bollocks near Cheadle.
Recorded in 1996 in Manchester, and that clip also gives an example of Victoria Wood's unerring ability to choose the right words to make the comedy bounce. Cheadle being the absolute perfect near Manchester town. It just falls in the right way. As Victoria said herself in this 1993 interview on Radio 4's then arts programme Kaleidoscope,
I think it has to have the right rhythm. It's very musical, the whole thing. It's all to do with rhythm and punctuation and building up a rhythm and building up an expected pattern and then breaking it and catching people on the offbeat.
But that's not all. Here's the rhythm.
Woman says bollocks near Cheadle.
But here's the twist. How did she know that near Cheadle is so much funnier than in Cheadle? Is it because she's subliminally mirroring a traffic report, as if a woman swearing has somehow become a major incident? Woman says bollocks near Cheadle. 14-mile tailback near Barnsley. Comedy as rhythm and music. Anyway, right, let's begin. Now, if we were to look at Victoria Wood's stand-up right through her career, from soup to nuts, you'd probably start with her writing about being an awkward teenager.
I mean, when I think back to when I was about 13 and I had to take my first boyfriend home to meet my mother, which is always your mother's idea. You don't want to take him home, do you? You want to be in a bush shelter with him, wondering if you can get pregnant through 2 pairs of Wranglers. But she wants to meet him, so you bring him home. And up until the minute you bring him into your kitchen, he's like the most gorgeous, sexy, dangerous boy. You bring him into your kitchen, he just looks stupid. And your mother looks as embarrassing as ever, wearing a PVC apron with "We've been to the Central Library" written on the front of it. And you just stood there in the middle of them thinking, oh, God, please let it not be beetroot. Do you like beetroot, Clint? And she's looking at him all the time he's eating. Did I not give you a fork, Clint? Because it's quite difficult to manage with your fingers, isn't it, coleslaw? And at the end of the meal, she says, now, what would you young people like to do now? You would like to be in a shop doorway somewhere, licking the back of each other's tonsils, thanks very much. I put some glue and some macaroni in the dining room. I thought you might like to make a collage.
What? Of course, with Victoria Wood, nothing is wasted and everything is meant. That boyfriend's name was to crop up again as another inappropriate lover in her 1998 sitcom Dinner Ladies, only this time as the boyfriend of her own character Bren's awful mother, played by Julie Walters as she sweeps into the canteen.
Bren, can I just pop into the toilet a minute with Clint? Nothing sordid, we're just... Come on, lover.
The 7 Ages of Woman, captured in 5 letters beginning with C and ending in T. At the start of the show, we heard a clip of an ITV schools programme from 1981 called The English Programme.
VTR 23709, English programme, writing lyrics, take 1.
Clearly an exciting show to work on. The idea behind the series was that it explored how writers, write. And one programme featured Victoria explaining how she went about the process of writing songs.
Well, I write the lyrics and the music separately, so whether I've done the tune first or not, I'll do the words at night, because I always work at night. And I usually start about 11, and hopefully I'll have actually started by about midnight, because I have to do the crossword, and I have to have a cup of coffee, and I have to wipe my desk and tidy my letters and write to people. So there's always about an hour when I don't do very much. And I'll start about midnight. Then I write the alphabet down the side of the page, because if I'm trying to find a rhyme, it's much easier to go through all the words that rhyme with the particular word I'm looking for, and then see if any of them could possibly make any sense and be any use to the song.
So we have an image of Victoria sitting there at 1 a.m, painstakingly working her way through the alphabet to come up with seemingly elusive rhymes. But there's no trace of difficulty when you listen to this song celebrating a typical teenage night out.
Oh dear, what can the matter be? 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday. Tracy Clegg and Nicola Battersby coming to town double quick. The rendezvous in front of a pillar. Tracy's tall like Jonathan Miller. Nicola's more like Guy the Gorilla if Guy the Gorilla were thick. Their hair's been done, it's very expensive. Their use of mousse and jelly's extensive as weapons. Their heads would be classed as offensive and put under some kind of ban. They're covered in perfumes, but these are misnomers. Nicola's scent could send dogs into comas. Tracy's kills insects and dustbin aromas and also gets stains off the pan. But it's their night out. It's what it's all about. It's looking for lads, looking for fun. A burger and chips with a sesame bun. They're in the mood for a fabulous interlude of living it up, painting the town, drinking Bacardi and keeping it down. And it's all right. It's what they do for Saturday night. Oh dear, what can the matter be? What can that terrible crunching and clatter be? It's the cowboy boots of Nicola Battersby leading the way into town. They hit the pub and Tracy's demeanour reminds you of a loopy hyena. They have 16 gins and a rum and ribena, and this is before they've sat down. They dare a bloke from Surrey called Murray to phone the police and order a curry. He gets locked up, it's a bit of a worry, but they won't have to see him again. They're dressed to kill and looking fantastic. Tracy's gone for rubber and plastic. Nicola's dress is a piece of elastic. It's under a heck of a strain. But it's their night out. It's what it's all about. It's ordering drinks, ordering cabs, making new gestures with doner kebabs. They're in the mood for a fabulous interlude of weeing in parks, treading on plants, getting the dresses caught up in the pants, and it's all right. It's what they do for Saturday night. Oh dear, what can the matter be? What can that terrible slurping and splatter be? It's Tracy Clegg and Nicola Battersby snogging with Derek and Kurt. They're well stuck into heavyish petting. It's far too dark to see what you're getting. Tracy's bra flies off, how upsetting, and several people are hurt. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What can the matter be? What can that moth-eaten pile of old tatters be? It's Tracy Clegg and Nicola Battersby getting chucked off the last 92. With miles to go and no chance of hitching, and Nicola's boots are bust at the stitching, Tracy laughs and says, what's the point bitching? I couldn't give a bugger, could you?
There we are, Victoria Wood's patent alphabet rhyming algorithm, matching Saturday with Battersby, Matterby, Clatterby, Tattersby, and of course, Splatterby. And so we leave teenagehood, a world of awkward sex, bus stops, drinking the wrong thing, drinking the right thing but in the wrong amounts, and having a dodgy boyfriend, probably called Clint. A Victoria Wood routine always seemed to have its feet firmly planted in real life. We can find out why. Here is Victoria recording some notes on a removals man who came to the house.
This is our removal man who came today and made me laugh a lot. I said to him, do you want a cup of coffee? Yeah. Do you both want one? Does the drive want one? Oh, I don't know, it's from Oxford.
Of course he was from Oxford. And you can already hear the tones and rhythms of Victoria Wood jokes in waiting in that liminal space between the removal man's moanings and material waiting to be born. And to prove it, here's the removal man telling an anecdote about Norman Wisdom on the Isle of Man ferry.
Norman Wisdom, he's great. Isle of Man ferry. He went back a queue, right, doing his laughing and falling over a bit. Everybody else started laughing and falling about. He went to front of the queue and bought his ticket.
It's perfect Victoria Wood territory. Element 1, a holiday in the Isle of Man. Not quite abroad, not quite a staycation, a word I suspect she would have loved to have picked apart, by the way, but the kind of holiday her audience would recognise, transmuted later into a little brushstroke in the life of Norman the bread man in Dinner Ladies.
All right, Norman.
I'm not. I can't cope with them stairs.
They're good for your stairs.
No, this is like a phobia. I get panicky.
What, on stairs?
I fell off a diving board in Guernsey, you know. I can't stand on coconut matting either.
You can get help for that, couldn't you?
Oh, I haven't got time. I'm building an extension.
You all right, Stan? You have a nice weekend?
Actor Andrew Livingston there playing Norman the bread man, talking to Victoria Wood's character Bren. And element 2, an entertainer common to all of her audience's childhoods in a pre-internet personal bubble age, transmuted, albeit into a different comedian, in a later Dinner Ladies joke.
Counselling. My mother was trapped under a Blackpool tram for 4.5 hours. She didn't get counselling. She got a cup of tea and 2 tickets to Charlie Drake.
Thelma Barlow as Dolly. Charlie Drake, Norman Wisdom, Guernsey, the Isle of Man, coconut matting, building your own extension. Say any of those in Victoria Wood's voice and you capture her entire tone in miniature. And here's some stand-up about what was obviously a true or near-true experience.
But coming down the motorway, I got stuck behind a caravan. I hate caravans. I hate it when you're all going down the fast lane at 70 miles an hour and they're stood up in the back cooking chips. I hate it. And lorry drivers are awful, aren't they? They're flashing at you to move over. What happened today in Woolworths? I said, please, don't do that. When I stopped on the hard shoulder and a police car pulled up behind me and said, why have you stopped, madam? I said, well, I was just listening to the Archers. He said, I didn't hear that, madam. I said, oh, didn't you? They're having terrible trouble with the pigs at Grange Farm. And I made the mistake of stopping one of those restaurants at the side of the road, famed for their speedy service. It took the waitress about 20 minutes to get to the table. It was like watching Jacques Cousteau coming towards you under the water. Oh, God, I said, I'll have beans on toast. I could see her in the kitchen through the swing door. She was staring at this slice of bread on it. Looking for the instructions on it. She brought this beans on toast freezing cold with the skin on the top. I said, can I take this off and make a handbag? Do you mind? Oh, dear, but they're mad because it's horrible food and they leave a suggestions book by the till. People have put things like, why don't you close for lunch? I felt sorry for this waitress, they're being so slow. I tipped her £1. By the time she picked it up, it was only worth 75 pence.
Of course, you'll have already spotted the second half of that routine was alchemically transformed some years later into one of the most iconic sketches of television comedy, simply summed up by the words,
2 soups.
Julie Walters again, one of Victoria's lifelong comic muses, delivering soup to a desperately trying not to corpse Celia Imrie and Duncan Preston. As Victoria's life changed, so did the subject matter for her comedy. From first boyfriends and teenage angst to early courting to being newlywed to giving birth to being a mother of young children, she turned her own experience into something that everyone could relate to. That's art, that is. Here is a quintessential routine about somewhere roughly in the middle of that list. It has everything you can imagine in a Victoria Wood stand-up, plus a few hefty swipes at the north where she grew up.
You know, a funny thing happened to me a bit ago. I got pregnant. Now, look, I don't know how that happened. Honestly, you lose concentration for 1 minute, and I thought, well, I better find out if I am, for definite. And I thought, well, I can't bear to go to the doctor because he doesn't like women. He gets really embarrassed with women. You go with a sore throat and he looks like you through binoculars. And anyway, our doctor's surgery is not very private because it's in a sort of porter cabin and people going past on the pavement can hear your symptoms through the expeller. So I thought, well, I'll go buy a pregnancy testing kit from the chemist, you see. We've got 2 chemists, right, a little tiny old one and a big new modern one. So I thought, I'll go to the little tiny old one first. And it was in this street full of very old shops, the sort of shops you don't really get much anymore, tea towel shops. The sort of shops that have yellow cellophane over the windows. Well, I stood there and I thought, well, they won't have one, Probably their idea of a pregnancy testing kit is a woman in a crossover pinny going, well, it wouldn't surprise me. And it's a terrible chemist. It's run by these very, very tiny, suspicious old ladies. They only sell Brill cream on a doctor's certificate. And they have a panic button under the counter in case anybody under 25 comes in to try and buy a condom. And they've got this terrible girl working there on Saturday mornings who knows nothing, and she won't ask. I mean, you don't mind people knowing nothing if they ask. Hello, I know nothing, help. But she's awful. She happily serves people with completely the wrong things. And she's a bit dyslexic, and she's never really got latex and Durex. Sort of, sorted out in her mind. I mean, she sold one poor boy a surgical stocking. Well, when he saw the size of it, he was so miserable. Well, he had a terrible sex life, but he never got varicose veins, I suppose. And I thought, no, I'll go to our new chemist. She's very upmarket and modern, It's all neon lights and prawn sandwiches. And there's hardly anything medical in it at all. You could cruise the aisles for 20 minutes before you spotted some Clearasil. Anyway, I ran in and I grabbed the first thing I could see that looked like a pregnancy testing kit. And I took it outside and it was actually a bicycle repair outfit. I thought, well, I'll keep it, in case I am pregnant and I do have a baby and it gets a puncture. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what. So I go back in and I think, well, I must do this properly, but I'm feeling really embarrassed, you see. Sometimes you look as if I'm not really looking for one for myself. I'm looking on behalf of a friend of mine who has sexual intercourse on a regular basis. And I go up and there's a whole counter of things that look like pregnancy testing kits. And I go a bit nearer and they're actually things called ovulation predictor kits. Now, I didn't know about these, but these are kits that tell you when it's a good time to try and have a baby. They tell you when there's an egg on the way. There's one coming down now, get going. No, because it's quite crucial, this egg business, apparently, because you only get 1 egg a month. Like the war. So I'm sitting down, and the first thing I get out of the pregnancy testing kit is the diagram. I'm not very good with diagrams. I remember when I first saw the one in the Lillette's packet. What? I thought, no, I'll just put a ship in a bottle every month, it'll be quicker. Anyway, I unpack the kit, see, and what you get in a pregnancy testing kit, you get the diagram and the instructions, you get a sort of little test tube thing, and you get a little chemical impregnated paddle. And what you have to do is wee on this paddle, right? Now, this was a new one on me, weeing on paddles. During a paddle I'd heard about, but not on one. And I have to say, I don't think women are equipped for weeing on paddles somehow. We don't have the fine-tuning, do we, really? We have the engine capacity, but not the steering, I would say. No, I don't wish to pursue that. Anyway, so I'm desperate to have a go at it, you see, to find out if I'm pregnant or not. So I think, well, I'll go to the nearest lavatories, and that's in the multi-storey car park next to the chemist. So I'll go in, and the whole lavatory is completely deserted. There's a queue of people waiting to wee in the lift, but there's nobody in the lavatory. And I go in, and I'm not surprised it's deserted because it's absolutely covered in graffiti, this lavatory. I mean, I don't mind a bit of graffiti, but it's a bit depressing when people can't even spell pubic. And it's got things written up, it says things like, I love Baz, signed Holly. It's actually said singed Holly, but it's easy to lose concentration with a nail file. I love Baz, signed Holly. Oh, no, you don't, Holly, you cow. Baz belongs to me, Donna. And then we had Baz loves Donna in a heart. So I think it was meant to be a heart. It actually looked more like a sort of sports bra, but it was meant to be a heart. I love Baz St. Donna. I love Baz St. Holly. I love Baz St. Peter. I think he'd come in from another... I don't know where he'd come from to write that. I said, Baz is great, St. Holly McManus. Holly McManus is a big fat slag and nobody will touch her with a barge pole. Donna. Well, she spelt that like opinion pole. But you couldn't really have Holly McManus as a big fat slag, nobody will touch her with an opinion pole. That wouldn't make sense. Anyway, people who do opinion polls are desperate. They'll have anybody. But it was all over the place. Baz is great. Baz Snog's fabulous. Baz did it to me, lords and lords. I thought the little sign scratched up somewhere. Baz is knackered, please leave him alone.
On stage, it's a 15-minute stand-up routine, but here's the same subject, but condensed down into one extraordinary one-liner from Dinner Ladies.
Are you not pregnant?
Not unless sperm can get through a sash window, why?
You also heard Andrew Dunn as Tony. And by the way, it's a measure of the public's trust in Victoria that that line went out on BBC One. And again, just now on Radio 4, come to that, as it were. Victoria Wood's comedy crossed class, regionality and, significantly, gender. All the more extraordinary when you consider how much of her subject material was the travails of women's experience.
It's a terrible thing, you know, premenstrual tension, because when women all work together, they all start to coincide. And they all get it all at the same time. Do you remember that office block in the city last year where the windows blew out?
So by now, people in Victoria's world are indeed getting pregnant. Take this routine involving childbirth mixed with, because of course we're talking Victoria Wood, cosmetic surgery done on the cheap.
I thought I'd go and see my friend and tell her about my date, you see, get a bit of advice. And I went to see her, and she was awfully miserable, my friend, because she was depressed about the veins on her legs. Because she'd had shorts on the other day, and her husband had used her left thigh to direct someone to the motorway. She said she was thinking of having plastic surgery. I mean, she's had it before, because she had all the loose skin taken away from under her arms. And it sort of tightened up. I mean, it works, you know, she's got nice tight arms. Just if she goes out in the sun, she has to prick them with a fork. This is the trouble. But the real reason she was feeling a bit low was that she had postnatal depression, you see. And she showed me the baby. And... and then I had it as well. But my friend didn't know what to do when she got pregnant. She didn't know what sort of birth to have, because she's quite frightened of pain, you see. In fact, she had an epidural before she had sex, just in, you know, to be on the safe side. Well, in the end, she opted for natural childbirth, and she went to this new natural childbirth clinic, where they give you a room that's supposed to be more like your own bedroom. You know, it's full of old underpants and coffee cups and and they said to her, have an active birth. And she said, what's that? And they said, well, you walk about and we follow you with a washing up bowl. She said, honestly, they said, honestly, no, go where you like, go where you like. Well, she went to Tesco's, they were furious with her.
Oh, and by the way, did you notice this sound? That's the sound of a bloke. For some reason, I imagine a great big hairy one killing himself at a joke about natural childbirth. In fact, Victoria also had the measure of men down to a hapless cardigan-wearing tea.
But the year's just whipping by. The next thing you know, it's bonfire night. Then it's Christmas. I can't stand Christmas, actually. I can't stand all that panicking men do on Christmas Eve in department stores, looking for the lingerie department, trying to buy French knickers for their wives without actually looking at them, touching them, or saying the word knickers. Yes, that's right. That's about the right size. I'll have that. It's a fire extinguisher. Never mind, just wrap it up. Men always chicken out, don't they, my really strong perfume for their wives, because they think the wives will like it, and they think the box looks a nice size to keep screws in. And the wives don't like it. They put it on because they think the men will like it, and men go around saying, does that blue bottle come back then?
And she poured all her instinctive understanding of this particular kind of hardware-centric man into the character of Stan in Dinner Ladies, as played by Duncan Preston.
You all right, Stan? Did you have a nice weekend?
I did, Bren. I got my carpet tax organised finally.
Did you?
I bet you'd imagine they were standardised, hadn't you, carpet tax?
Yeah.
They're not. I had to laugh in the end. The variations in length.
Can you put butter on for me, Stan?
Stan lived in a world where sex was sex and rawl plugs were rawl plugs.
It can't shock me. I was once employed in the biggest brothel in Haslingden.
Doing what?
The rewiring.
What was it like?
Well, it was very tricky, actually, because there were so many wall lights.
To be fair, buying underwear isn't easy at the best of times.
The only thing I could find to put on this morning that was clean was a body. This one. I've got it on the body. This is my fantasy body. This is made by Fantasy. I've got another one made by Burley. But it was so embarrassing going into the shop and saying to the woman behind the counter, "Excuse me, have you got a large white Burley body?" I'll tell you what. But they're such a faff to put on and off, aren't they, bodies? I mean, mine's got poppers and Velcro, which I think is very dodgy near any kind of a pubic outcropping. But they are such a faff, aren't they, getting them on and off? I mean, I've got friends who wear knickers and tights, then a body, then a little dress or trousers or something, and they go out for a few drinks and they sit there and they go, "Oh, sod it, Angela, let's just wet ourselves."
In her live stage shows, Victoria Wood also did characters. We'll meet Kimberly's friend, complete with yellow beret, in the next programme. But here's somebody she created to skewer a particular kind of corporate pretentiousness. Corinna, the city bus tour guide.
Good morning. I'd just like to welcome everybody to our city bus city tour this morning. Taking you around this very ancient city of ours, filling you in on a little bit of know-how and je ne sais quoi along the way. My name's Corinna. I'm a fully qualified city bus city tour guide, having undergone the very intensive city bus city tour training programme. And a very gruelling 45 minutes it proved to be. I'm Corinna, as I say. I'm chock-a-block of know-how. And like all the city bus city tour guides, I shall be handing out various juicy nuggets en route. Drive on, Dennis. We're starting our tour here in City Square. As you can see, we have the law courts, the town hall and the municipal library directly ahead of us. These were all designed by one and the same person. I can't quite think of his name just at the moment, but as we pass his statue, you will see that he had curly hair and quite a long jacket. Moving along down the Broadway, we pass the ancient medieval banqueting hall. Site for the secret meeting between Mary, Queen of Scots and Queen Elizabeth I. Whether this meeting actually took place or not, we cannot ascertain. But we can be fairly sure they were not disturbed in their meeting by the bleeping of the Pelican Crossing as we are today.
In the next programme, we'll be following Victoria through early motherhood, the travails of toddlerdom, the struggle of school and the perils of ageing. Just time for one more quick filthy joke.
The thing I like best in a magazine, I like the problem page, and I like that bit at the bottom where they don't print the letter, just the answer. I like that. Dear Puzzled of Essex, no, this is not normal behaviour. Tell your husband those things for putting tea towels into it, not anything.
Goodbye.
Hello. Well, here we are then. We made it. We're out of the house. We said, that's it, Friday night, we're coming out. We are not sitting in front of the television eating pizza straight out of the box, scraping cold mozzarella cheese off the inside of the lid 2 hours later and eating that.
Welcome to Victoria Wood from Soup to Nuts. I'm Rebecca Front and I invite you to pull up a pizza lid with cold mozzarella, sit back and enjoy this, the second part of our look back at Victoria Wood's stand-up and songs. This being the second show, and this absolutely not being a proper documentary, what better time than to look at how she would begin a typical stand-up show and immediately bond with the audience. Here's more of her introductions, this one from a performance at the Birmingham Hippodrome in 1990.
Anyway, welcome to the lovely Birmingham Hippodrome. All the glamour and glitter of show business encapsulated in one venue. But not this one, unfortunately. What do we think of when we stand here? Gilbert's Romeo, Olivier's Hamlet, Rackham's Furniture Department? It's the pink Draylon that lets it down, I think, really. I suppose they can't make it too nice in case you all come and you won't go at the end. You know, sort of same principle as designing a recreation hall in a euthanasia complex. Are the people up the back tonight? Oh dear, they sound miserable, don't they? You'll have to splash out on a better ticket next time, I think. We got people in the boxes? Can't see. Oh, they're nice, aren't they? Little mobile homes stuck on the side like that. If the milkman comes calling, can you tell him want 2 pints of skimmed and a Bilberry yoghurt? Thank you so much.
The Bilberry yoghurt, now of course officially enshrined in law as the funniest flavour of all yoghurts. But hear how carefully crafted the seemingly off-the-cuff routine actually is. Here's a clip from a home-recorded cassette of Victoria working through her routine in advance of a cabaret booking.
Hello.
I don't really want to say much more than that, I don't think, at the moment. I think I'll just stand here and drink you all in. Well, not all of you. If I drank you in, I wouldn't be able to drive home. Anyway, welcome to Place. Seems quite a nice place. Somehow classy and yet quite seedy all at the same time.
So let's hear that homework in action.
But Portsmouth seems a nice place. I've never been here before. It's quite classy, isn't it? Classy and yet seedy at the same time. I think that's quite...
Yep, that worked. Let's just check one more.
It's very nice to be here in Cardiff. Seems a nice place. Classy and yet somehow seedy at the same time.
Gets a round of applause in this town.
But Derby seems a very nice place. Classy and yet somehow seedy at the same time. I love it.
Now, the next thing any stand-up has to deal with is latecomers, and Victoria had a fine array of lines to deal with them.
Oh, good evening. We waited as long as we could. If you're going to be late, don't wear glittery earrings. That's my advice to you.
Or here's another, my personal favourite.
Good evening. A late start. Don't mind me, you get that Mac folded properly.
Just the joy of the word Mac. Of course her audiences wear Macs. Not an overcoat, too fancy. Not an anorak, not on a night out. But a Mac. But folded properly, mind, nothing sloppy. In fact, Victoria knew how important it was to get the audience on board as quickly as possible. This is one of the reasons she did her own warm-up when recording her sitcom Dinner Ladies. And fortunately, someone very smart up in the TV control gallery, OK then, her longtime producer and director Jeff Posner, had the producer's instinct to press play and record while she did so.
We're out of the house. We said, that's it, Saturday night. We're coming out.
And if that sounds familiar, here's something. Victoria introducing the cast members. In this case, Maxine Peake, doing her first ever TV job as the perpetually discontented teenager Twinkle.
This is Maxine Peake, who's not done any acting at all, have you? Not even this afternoon you didn't do any. Been to RADA though, haven't you? Didn't get in, she just looked through the window and came away. Anyway, so you are Twinkle, see you later.
In fact, Victoria herself explained the importance of doing her own warm-up. This is an extract from her own personal audio diaries she kept during the long process of making Dinner Ladies.
I was the only one who could explain the plot, I was the only one who knew what was going to happen. And, well, I am a stand-up comedian, so it seems stupid to pay another stand-up comedian to go and do terrible mother-in-law jokes, although I can do terrible mother-in-law jokes, thanks very much. It was just easy, it just made more of a night of it, I'd just come on and do that, explain, bring everybody on, because I wanted to introduce all the cast. I just thought it made it more cosy, and then we would... break off from that and, well, hopefully while they were all still laughing, we'd get going.
And the explanations even continued on set. Imagine, if you would like to, all the dinner ladies sitting around the canteen table waiting to shoot an ensemble scene. This is Victoria talking directly to the studio audience.
So just tell you what this is about before we do it. Well, what it's about is, see, Jean... She's thinking about her wedding, aren't you? Thinking about the food for your wedding, aren't you? That's what she's thinking about. Not your wedding, not your daughter's wedding. Daughter's wedding. Lisa. So when it's just so you're not going, when it starts, you know what I mean? Because if you've only seen the Generation Game, you're not going to catch up with this.
You also heard Anne Reid there as Jean. She could be quick-witted too, as this little clip shows. Here she's in the middle of recording an episode of Dinner Ladies in front of the studio audience and has forgotten a line. Nick, the ever-faithful floor manager, is reminding her of the exact words in the script.
I'll tell you what, you tell me what the lines are, and I'll copy what you said.
No.
Just what?
Now look, just give it to me.
Just give it to me?
When you come back.
When you come back? I'm telling you, just in case you can't hear it the next time, you'll know what they said. Just give it to me when you come back. I'll sort it out.
I'll sort it.
I'll sort it. Who put that out in? I never wrote it. Though, as I'm paid by the word, it would have been a good idea to pop it in. I'll sort it out, possibly, can I? Should I? I think I possibly should. Thank you, 20 quid, eh? Thank you.
OK, enough analysis, back to stand-up. Where were we? Oh, yes, we need to talk about sex. Or, more precisely, we need to talk about Frida and Barry. Victoria's most famous song, with which she often closed the show, was about a couple where, to put it simply, she wants to, And he doesn't.
So she said, let's do it do it till our hearts go boom. Go native, creative, living in the living room. This folly is jolly, bend me over backwards on me hostess trolley. Let's do it tonight.
But less well known is the intro to the song.
I tell you one way to cheer things up at home, girls. If you're in bed with your chap and things have got a little bit what Olivia Newton-John used to call physical, because these things happen. Now, I understand. A girl gets to the end of her Mills and Boon and... Well, look, if you're in bed with your chap and these things are going on, a good way to get a laugh, right, is to wait until things have got very passionate, stop dead, and say, did you get those bin liners? Now, this next song is dedicated to my deep interest in the act of physical lovemaking. It's very short. Now, because when I was younger, people used to stay the night with me. This is before I got my Holly Hobby vibrator, you understand? No, I used to sleep with people. You do these silly things when you're young. I mean, I used to take pills, but I was too young. I was the only one who had to have them crushed up in jam. But when anybody stayed the night with me, I used to put this bolster down the middle of the bed. Nothing odd about that, but mine had broken glass stuck in the top. There's so many silly things to do with sex, though. All those things you're supposed to say. Did the earth move? No, but the wardrobe door came open. And all those things you're supposed to have, like Dutch caps. Well, they're horrid. They are, because if they're too small, they make your ears itch. Did you know? Now, it all stems from this unfortunate experience I had with my first boyfriend. You see, he had a sex manual, but he was dyslexic. I was lying in bed and he was looking for my vinegar. That was quick. Took him 20 minutes to get that in Eastbourne.
She understood the British attitude to sex, that however passionate things get, there's always a danger that someone will inadvertently mention Eastbourne. Here's her description of the preamble to a British wife-swapping party.
I mean, I find it very hard to imagine wife swapping going on in this country. I mean, I suppose you can picture it in Hollywood, can't you? In the Hollywood Hills, naked film stars leaping from chandeliers and ladling cocaine up out of Tupperwares. But you can't sort of picture an orgy in Bridlington, can you? Oh, now steady on, mind the barometer.
She envisages two British couples painfully going through the social niceties before they get stuck in.
Oh, then what do? They all go in and have a dry sherry in the lounge? Can I tempt anybody to a low-fat crinkle? I beg your pardon? It's a crisp. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we started that.
A low-fat crinkle. We've all felt deep down that it's a stupid, stupid name for what's basically a crisp. But it took a Victoria Wood to pin it down and then use it with such comic rhythm. In fact, getting that rhythm right was an essential part of her writing process. Let's listen to some more of her own personal rehearsal tape. She's just bashing through the end of Frida and Barry.
Jokes for Harrogate, I can say... I love to see people stuffing their faces in betties and then trying to sweat it all up in the Turkish baths. Turn the heat up, Connie, I'm trying to lose a Welsh rarebit and an eclair, or something like that. 2 eclairs and a Welsh rarebit, I suppose, would be better.
Yeah, 2 eclairs and a Welsh rarebit is better. OK, next on the running order is a song, so...
Cross to the piano. Now, when Wimbledon was on, I did a joke about Wimbledon, saying all the British players had won their matches and gone on to the semi-final, and then I said, oh no, that wasn't Wimbledon, that was Tales of the Unexpected, which might do for something else unlikely that's happening at the moment. Well, sitting down at the piano, I do have a love song that's done rather well for me, actually. This is Over Tinkling. It's been translated into many languages. It's been recorded by many famous international artistes, such as Nana Mouskouri, Charles Aznavour, Jockey Wilson. I hope you like it. If we don't, we do have a complaints procedure. You fill in the form and I get in the car. Thank you.
And in fact, not a song next, but an older form of comedy, the comic monologue, a music hall tradition most famously exemplified by Stanley Holloway with monologues like Albert and the Lion, delivered in the broadest Lancashire tones, but here given Victoria Wood's inimitable spin.
I've got a little change of mood now, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you know, but I've written a lot of serious poetry. Some of it in the interval. And this is an extract from a very ambitious work of mine, a 27-volume anthology entitled Slowly to My Grave I Stagger. And I have been heavily influenced by other poets such as Sylvia Plath, Ezra Pound, E.E. Cummings, Stanley Holloway. And here is a short monologue entitled It Was Party Time in the Crescent. It was party time in the Crescent. Madge's invite said 8 for 8:30. By 7:45, Madge had got in a state saying, "Rex, does that pelmet look dirty?" Madge had gone to a great deal of trouble. There was peanuts and a warm Coca-Cola. There were prawns on Ryvita and at least half a litre of sherry she'd won at Tombola. Conversation was sticky to start with. I see you've got everything matching. They all stared at the floor, then the man from next door broke a tooth on a piece of pork scratching. Mrs. Smith had just come off of a cruise ship and showed 32 slides of old frescoes. This white wine, I discern, is it from the Auvergne? They said, no, it's £2, it's from Tesco's. Well, the party just couldn't get going in spite of the prawns and the drink. Then Rex had a hunch. This party needs punch. Is that bucket still under the sink? He mixed old parsnip wine and Bacardi, some meths and 3 small pickled onions, nail varnish remover, the fluff from the Hoover, and some ointment for rubbing on bunions. He tossed in 2 bottles of Brasso, a sandwich, a quarter of gin. He said, hey, come and look, it just melted the bucket. Never mind, everyone, get stuck in. Well, the party picked up from that moment. Mrs. Smith got quite jolly and bold. No, getting the burps. Rex said, that's the terps. Put your knickers back on, you'll catch cold. One man got dressed in a nightie and said he was Emily Bronte. Made a gurgling sound, collapsed on the ground and broke Madge's Capitamonte. One woman, who nobody liked much, ran amok with a brawn handheld blender. She slipped on the rug, caught her foot in a plug and knocked herself out on the fender. Well, they phoned 999 for a stretcher. Please come at once, you must hurry. Well, they must have misdialed. At the door stood a child with 3 rice and 1 vegetable curry. They all left about 6 in the morning, 17 in 1 Morris Marina. In fact, now the bonnet had 8 of them on it, singing Don't Cry For Me, Argentina. Rex and Madge had a post-party cuddle, Madge in trunks and an old fireman's helmet. That was wonderful, Rex. What incredible sex. Now, how do we get off the pelmet?
Anyway, where had we got up to, stand-up and life-wise? Let's see. Had teenage boyfriends, had relationships, got married, got pregnant, had babies. Ah, yes, motherhood.
Anyhow, I must tell you, I've had a terrible day so far because I woke up really late this morning. I overslept. So I'm running around, shouting at my children. One of them was being really stupid. He wouldn't get dressed. So I overreacted. I've had him adopted. No, it's all right. I'm going to collect him from the social services tomorrow morning. But he's awful, though. He's always phoning Childline about me. She's running the flannel under the cold tap again. You know, I'm turning into such an old bag mother. You know, I used to be quite nice. When I just had 1 little baby, I was really nice, you know, and it had everything. It had musical mobiles over its cart and Mrs. Tiggywinkle height charts. Second one, couldn't be bothered. If he wouldn't go to sleep, he used to prop him up in front of the Open University. If I want to know how tall he is, I just check the snot mark on my coat and add 2 inches.
When Victoria Wood became a mother, her children became, as children do, an unrelenting inspiration for material. But she had an ability to marry everyone's experiences with her own, no matter how much of a celebrity she became, and to link it back to her own very northern childhood.
Anyway, I'm really pleased to be here. It's so nice to be here tonight, and I'm so glad to be out of London, because the bit of London I live in is filthy. You know, the air is filthy, especially in the hot weather. And it's just traffic pollution. And all the traffic, really, is these women driving their children to school in these huge four-wheel drive Jeeps. Now, why they have to have four-wheel drive in London, I don't really understand, unless they're worried about encountering a low-sugar Ribena slick coming up Highgate Hill. But they all drive these enormous great tanks, you know, great bars on the front to repel rhinoceroses, and machine guns mounted on the roof, mooses' heads dangling off the spare wheel. This is all to deliver one spindly child to the fluffy bunny Montessori nursery half a mile up the road. And they have a terrible life at these private schools, you know, these poor little children, because they're whipped in and out of conversational Spanish and Mexican folk dancing and interpersonal skills. My children don't do nothing like that at their school. They just sit around cutting up old Brillo pad boxes with zigzag scissors. Once in a while they come home with something they've done at school, like catch nits. But it's these mothers, you know, that are really, really competitive. Like, I know this woman, she had her child taught to play the piano when it was 7 months old. But it was a concert pianist by the time it was 2.5. It gave a concert at the Royal Albert Hall, second piano concerto, Rachmaninoff. The critics were really nice about it. They said it was unbelievably mature under the circumstances. But in the quiet bits, you could hear its nappy crackling. But even the ordinary mothers I know are really competitive, like perfectionistic. Like, if your kid has a birthday party, you can't just go out and buy the birthday cake. You have to make it yourself. Well, I was at it myself a few weeks ago. I was up till 3:45 in the morning, frigging about with licorice bootlaces. Trying to do Thomas the Tank Engine. I'm on the phone to Jane Asher. Was this your idea? A shunting yard made of sponge fingers? This is all so that somebody who's no more than 2'6" high can come in the next morning and say, I think that coal tender is coupled up incorrectly, Mother. And party bags. I mean, party bags are a real nightmare where I live. I mean, you can't get away with, like, just chucking in a bit of cake and a balloon. They go mad. I mean, this year you can't really get away with less than one decent piece of jewellery and some air tickets. Now, I know this woman, she said, this has gone too far, this party bag business. I'm going to put a stop to it. And she gave a party, and she put on the invitations, there will be no party bags. The children didn't like that. She was under police protection for 3 months. She had to have cosmetic surgery and go and live in Argentina. But there was none of this when I was little. There was none of this party bags or consolation prizes or everybody has to go home with something. I mean, it was tough. If you were out at musical chairs, you were out. I mean, out in the street. Go on. It's raining, Mrs. Pickering. I mean it. And there was no exciting food. There was no pizzas or burgers. We used to die of excitement if the jelly came in 2 colours. People used to sneak into the dining room. Oh, it's red and yellow. Yeah! And we used to have these horrible little potted meat sandwiches with flags in that said potted meat in joined-up writing, which none of us could read. So you take a bite and go, I don't like potted meat, Mrs. Pickering. Then you go without. And you know when you do pass the parcel, now when you make up the parcel, you have to put a little prize in each layer, so each child who unwraps a layer gets a prize. None of that when I was little. You were lucky if you got one when you got to the end. You'd unwrap the last thing and go, there's nothing in it, Mrs. Pickering. No, that's life, that is. Think on.
OK, done some stand-up, done a song, finished the song.
E7 suspended, E7, A7. Well, A9, D.
What's next? Oh, time for a character.
At the end of that song, grab the berry which should be hung on the upstage knob of the piano stool's best place for it.
Beret. Ah, yes, it's Kimberly time.
Hello. I'm waiting for my friend, Kimberly.
One of Victoria's best-known routines goes by the name Kimberly. Like Frankenstein being the name of the doctor, not the monster, sorry, I will calm down in a minute, Kimberly was the name of the character's friend, perpetually being sought as Victoria stood there in yellow beret and bright orange overcoat.
Hello.
I'm looking for my friend. Have you seen her? Kimberly. She's really, really tall and really, really wide. If she had a suitcase on her head, she'd look like a fitted wardrobe. I'm meeting her here for a drink. We're both celebrating. Kimberly's reached target weight at Weight Watchers. And I've come on the right bus. She's done really, really well at Weight Watchers, Kimberly. She told me she's lost the equivalent of 3 bags of anthracite. I said, it doesn't matter, you've got storage heaters. She's done this thing called Weight Watchers Quick Start. It says it's really, really effective because it's so quick. You run in, they shout, you're too fat, and you run out again. We're only having one drink because I've got to go to my evening class. I'm learning a language. It's called Get By in Flemish. Well, I'm learning it, you know, in case I ever go to Flem. So I don't know what I'm having to drink. I think I might have a penis colada. Have you ever had one? They're nice. I made one myself once out of a recipe in the Watchtower. It was Ribena, pineapple chunks and evaporated milk. I know what Kimberly will be having, Malibu. It's a Malibu maniac is Kimberly. She's awful. One Malibu starts leaping about doing an Oginski impression. Not the ballet dancer, the arse. 2 Malibus, you have to follow her around with a shovel.
Victoria Wood was never really seen as a satirist or a political comedian. You could argue that she didn't like to divide audiences, or that she had a healthy scepticism for the sort of person who claimed they had the answer to the world's problems and would jolly well make sure you would agree.
Would this be a good moment to talk about Scottish country dancing?
Perhaps like the spirit of well-meaning Whiggish busybody Philippa, the human resources manager in Dinner Ladies, as played to perfection there by Celia Imrie. So this next bit of stand-up from 1990 is fascinating because you may not remember the people she talks about. Actually, no, this is Radio 4, of course you will. But it's a rare foray into current affairs.
No, I'm glad I'm here now. I think it's going to be a good one tonight. You know, this is my first proper theatre show of the 1990s. This is my first tour of the new decade. It's very exciting, isn't it? What's the new decade going to hold, do you think? Do you think they're going to knock the whole of the Berlin Wall down? All these Germans are going to stand there going, I think it looked better before. I don't know. What do you think? There's so many exciting things gone on this year, haven't there? Like Nelson Mandela. I couldn't believe it when they let Nelson Mandela out of prison. What a day that was. You remember that afternoon? Everybody sat around their television sets going, what on earth happened to the Antiques Roadshow? Do you know? I would say I haven't quite understood everything that's gone on in the news. I still really don't understand why Colonel Gaddafi was paying Arthur Scargill's mortgage. Do you understand that? What was that? The Gaddafi and Bingley Building Society? I didn't understand it. I mean, the sad thing was, if he'd lent him another £3, he could have had his hair done, couldn't he?
She instinctively knew that the British every woman and every man would laugh at Arthur Scargill and Colonel Gaddafi. That's not political. That's what P.G. Wodehouse also knew was the British person's ability to recognise a buffoon or a sham when they see one. With children growing up and a host of other television, stage and film projects to plan, in 2002 Victoria Wood turned the Albert Hall into her very own version of Shea Stadium.
You know, I've been thinking about giving it up, you know, being a stand-up comedian. I was thinking about stopping doing it. Oh. Not tonight, I'll wait till you've gone home, but... No, I don't want to get, like, too middle-aged to do it, you know, because I've got really middle-aged lately. I can't read the paper. I'm doing this with the paper, you know. I can't really read it unless the woman in the house across the street holds it up at the bedroom window. Oh, and I can't read the A to Z. I can't read the small streets. If you don't live on a main road, I'm not coming to see you.
Of course, no discussion about ageing would be complete without a good old-fashioned swipe at the thorny question of body image.
Anyway, I know I'm different sizes in different shops. 16 in some shops, 18 in some shops. In Gap, I'm only a size 12 because they're American. In Marks & Spencer's, I'm only a size 3 because they don't want to upset anybody. And in Topshop, my hip set off an alarm as I go through. There's a big middle-aged woman trying to get in. There's a grill coming down. Whoa! I go, please, it's not for me, it's my daughter. No, we can't help you. Go, go, go. Evans is round the corner. Please, go there.
Victoria Wood, sketch writer...
2 soups.
sitcom writer,
Because on Sky there was this film about this woman whose husband died in this avalanche. And 2 years later she finds his sperm in the freezer and gets pregnant with a turkey baster. So she's been distraught for years because they haven't had any children.
You should have cleaned the freezer out a bit more often.
and character comedienne,
I'm looking for my friend.
discoverer of the perfect rhyme,
I've had it up to here with sex. Those nylon vests and hairy necks. They expect you to be flighty and they act like God Almighty because they've got a cock and they can mend a flex.
discoverer of the perfect word order,
2 eclairs and a Welsh rarebit, I suppose, would be better.
and creator of the most perfect one-liners.
I said, have you got Menopause magazine? He said, does that come monthly? I said, there's no reason why it would.
Victoria Wood.